What is up, guys? I'm Matt. This is MotoWorks. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. We're working on the never-ending project, the Thundercat, the YZF600R. That, to be honest, it's taken a while, but as with any project that you start, they're going to take time. They're going to try your patience, especially on a project like this where I work on motorcycles on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times it is a little frustrating when you just can't seem to get that bike running. That's been the case with this. Now in the video today I'm going to repair the wiring. In one of my previous uploads I showed that the bike wasn't charging and it was due to some melted wires. So I'm going to repair the wiring and then ride the bike. Hopefully that's the solution. The bike's fixed after that. Then I can move on to actually doing the suspension, which I still do have. It's still in a box somewhere. I think it's over here. So there's the suspension there. But like I said, it's a project. We're going to keep plugging away at this bike. I'm going to fix the wiring now. One thing before we start, I did have a subscriber that wanted to know how the airbox and air filter setup looks on this bike, and I can show you here. Now this has a K&N. It's got a, I think this is a spark arrestor screen. I'm not 100% sure if that's what they call it, or it might just keep the bigger particles out. I really don't know what its purpose is. If somebody knows, drop a comment below as what that's for. But this screen goes in here and there's a little groove, as you can see, where that slots in. And the air filter itself, on the original OEM bike, I believe the air filter is a two-piece setup. On this K&N is supposed to be a one-piece filter, but time and age has tore where this actually bent. So this one actually isn't in the best shape. So I might eventually get a new filter, or since it has this screen, that'll keep the big particles out. I'm not too worried. I think the filter will do most of the job, but that's how that's set up there. And with anything K&N, you always want to keep the lettering and numbering facing up when you install your filter. But that's pretty much how the filter gets set up on there. So hopefully that was helpful to that subscriber. If you're watching the channel, hopefully that helped you out. I also had another subscriber ask a question on the tachometer jumping. Now if you look at mine, this one does jump. Alright, see how it jumps up and then down, and then it'll do it again. It'll find another spot on there, it'll jump up and it'll jump down. Now it's only done that when I didn't have everything plugged in. So if you look, I don't have a lot of these wires plugged in. So when I get that stuff all plugged in, I'll show you again that'll go away. So hopefully that answers your guys' questions for now. And as I say in any of my videos, I love the questions, I love the comments, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have to the best of my ability. I did get a haircut, so yeah, keep the questions, keep the comments coming, guys. If you haven't subscribed, consider smashing that subscribe button. I'm going to go fix these wires. We're going to hook everything back up, and then we're going to take this thing for a test ride, and hopefully that fixes the issues that are plaguing this motorcycle. When we actually fix the wires, what we want to do is we want to first get some good wire to solder to, because that's what we're doing with this. Just like I talked about in the last upload, we're just going to solder these connectors together instead of putting a new plug in there, because as you saw before, the plug failed and melted together. So the simple solution is to just cut the wires back and then solder the connections together. Now what I recommend you guys get is these type of shrink tube pieces. I don't know what you want to call them. The nice thing about these, and they're available, I got these on eBay. I got a pack of 100 and they gave about 20 of these. There's larger ones, smaller ones. But go to eBay. You could just type in solder infused shrink tube or solder inside. I'll try and attach a link in the description below. But basically, these are sealed on both ends. You can see they have this little red waterproof seal that, when heated up, actually would block out any moisture on the ends here. And then in the middle, you have a little dab of low heat solder. And the nice thing about the low heat solder and it being shrink tube is this stuff remains pliable. Most of the time when you solder and you make a good soldering and you make a good connection with solder, the wire becomes very brittle where that solder actually is on the wire, so it becomes less flexible there, and that can be a problem because with the vibrations of the bikes and depending on where the connection is, it could actually break and you'd be right back in the same problem. But I'll show you once I put this on that this stuff still remains nice and flexible, nice and pliable. So that's why I like using this type of connector. But again, you can just solder these wires. You could do it however you'd like to. This is just the way I prefer. But yeah, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut back the actual wire here and get to a point where it's not very hard and brittle. Like right now, this is pretty stiff, and you want that wire to be nice and free moving, kind of like this wire here. It just kind of bends nice and easy, whereas this stuff here, it bends and it holds its shape. So we're going to cut that back, get some nice fresh wire. Now what I like to use is a little bit of flux. Alright, now what flux does is when you brush it on the wires, it cleans up the wire itself. Any type of oxidation or corrosion that's on the wire, it cleans that stuff up as you apply heat to it. That's how it works. And it's really nice because it also, as it's melting that stuff off, it's drawing the solder in behind it, so you get a really nice connection as well, in addition to cleaning those wires up. Alright, now before we actually do this, we want to push the other wires out of the way, so all we have here is the wire we're working on. And just make sure that this in here has something to melt to, so get any of this other extra stuff out of the way. Then that'll melt these little blue rings around there. I went with the blue and not the red because the red was a little bit too tight of a fit. So all we do now is just heat that up. It's really trick how this works. There it is. Now you let that cool off and that's soldered together. When you heat it up, it heats up nice and clear as you saw, so you can see where all the soldering connections have been made. Then when it dries, or cools off I should say, it turns to this opaque color here. But the coolest thing about this stuff is it's very pliable. It bends, it moves, it acts just like wire, it doesn't break. And it's mainly because that's a nice low melt solder, so it does remain pliable. So that's one of the main reasons why I really like these connectors and why I use them on a lot of stuff. Because it's going to seal out moisture with these little rings here and there. And then it does actually put a soldering connection on wires, and it's just going to work really good. And now, I know what you're probably thinking. The old plug melted together, so why wouldn't this just get hot and melt together or melt apart on the bike? And I don't know. I don't think it will, because it has a nice solid connection now, and I think all the power is going to go to where it needs to go, and I don't think it's going to get hot in this area. But solder does add resistance to any anything, so it might get hot here, but only time will tell. We'll see how this works. But that should fix it for now. I'm gonna then put some electrical tape around here and clean this up a little bit before we put the gas tank on. Alright, so we buttoned it all back up, made it look nice and pretty, presentable. Now, of course, I'm not going to just button the bike back up without first making sure the battery's charging and the fix we did worked. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Just gonna fire it up, make sure the battery's charging, then I can button everything back up and then we can go ride it and see if it actually fixed the problem. So we're starting at 12.6 volts. Turn the key on, it drops to 12.2 or so. I'm going to start it up. Well, looks like the battery's charging. It's kind of out of gas now because I kept starting it before, but we're going to throw the gas tank back on and I'm going to take it for a test ride and make sure everything works and it doesn't leave me stranded. Now to show you, the RPMs are fine now. Turn the key on. Now that everything's plugged in, it doesn't go crazy. The tach stays where it's at. So make sure you just have everything plugged in and there's no loose connections somewhere. I think it's some type of way of telling you there's a fault without being able to display fault codes. So just check all your connections. For the subscriber that was asking about the tach jumping all over the place, I'd say first thing to do, check all your connections and make sure that they're all good, everything's plugged in. But now that I have everything plugged in, you can see it's not jumping around, and when I start it, the tach works like it should. So that's what I would say if you're having an issue where your tach signal is jumping all around the place. Well, we didn't make it that far, actually. About the same mileage, about 14 miles or so. But there she is. It stopped running on me, and right now the bike is sat for probably, I'm waiting on my trailer to get here. My buddy Jim, you guys know Jim. He came to bail me out. Thanks, Jim. We love Jim. But it shut off on me again, and it is what it is. It happens. I'm not super surprised that it shut off. There's just something not right, either fuel or ignition related, that keeps it not running long enough. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, anytime you have a project, you're gonna just have problems. It's an inherent thing. But there's Jim. Alright, guys. Well, we're back. I did get the bike trailered back, as you saw. My buddy Jim, thanks Jim, came out to the rescue, picked me up, and I brought the bike back to the garage. I have the bike running again. Now when it's sitting on the lift, it runs, it idles fine. Our charging issue repair worked. The battery is now charging. I'll show you. So we did fix the charging issue. The battery is now charging like it should. My thought at this point is it's something fuel related. Both the fuel pump as well as the fuel pump relay. Make sure that those items are working. I also might throw a new fuel filter in the bike. We'll see. I gotta now wait till the bike cools down, but as you can see, it's much later in the day. So guys, that's just gonna do it for another video in this never-ending saga of trying to get this bike running. But again, just like I said at the beginning, it's a project bike. You can't get discouraged, you can't get beaten down. Sometimes it just takes a while to figure out what's actually going on. Slowly but surely we're fixing all the little tiny issues, and really that's kind of the main thing with this bike, is there's just tiny issues here and there. So once we get everything sorted out, I have no doubt that this bike will run and give us no issues. So that's going to do it for this video there, guys. Thank you for checking it out. If you liked the video, as always, leave a thumbs up and comment below. I'll catch you in the next video, guys. I'm Matt. This is Motorworks. Have a good one.